Thanks for joining in.
Andrew.
1995 Premiership skipper, 1996 just one of the bunch. How does it feel?
Yeah, shocking. We were struggling throughout October and had a few more weeks off than we did last year, so to go out the way we did has been pretty shattering for everybody.
What has been the overall sort of review of the wash-up of the season led to? What's sort of the overall feeling about the way that 96 finished?
Well, it's been pretty hard. We've lost a few, our lists have been culled a little bit so far. We lost blokes like Barry Mitchell and Adrian Gleeson and Tony Lynn, Craig Devonport already, and a couple of great clubmen like Gleeson and Mitchell you don't replace. Really good mates of mine, and Gleeson I played with for 11 years, and been pretty sad and emotional down there, but I guess that happens every year this time.
Losing a heart and soul type bloke like Adrian Gleeson, does that take time to, sort of replace his role around the club? Yeah. Not only from a personal friendship point of view, but just sort of in amongst the player group?
Yeah, it does. I know they're pretty keen to keep him around the place as either, captain of the reserves like a Grinter's done before and that sort of thing. So they hold him in that sort of high esteem. But he's only 29. I think the Bear, might be nominated for the draft. Just depends. He thinks he still might have a year or two left, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. He's got till Friday to decide.
Right. How did he take the news?
Oh, he accepts it all. I think Bear and Mitch thought they'd just hadn't been given much of an opportunity. They got best every week in the reserves and didn't get much of a go, which probably was a bit of a problem with our selection in the end, that we kept picking our proven players, which we copped criticism for, which is fair enough, that we were hoping they're going to come good, and it didn't happen.
Are they sort of victims of that outsiders' perception that Carlton is a tad slow? When it's not going well, it always seems to come back to that, and neither of those guys have got great leg speed, and yet we know their capacity to get in and under and win a footy. Are they sort of victims of that sort of perception?
I think that was their comment in the end. I mean, they might not be, fast and that sort of thing, but they weren't the ones who let us down in the finals. They weren't the ones that did, they didn't get the opportunity to show us their wares. So I think there's no doubt about that. They, because of their age, and 29, Mitch was 31, and not being lightning quick, I'm sure that played a part.
Do you reckon there is a problem with the list, that there is a touch of a lack of leg speed amongst the list? Is it a fair criticism? I mean, the media tend to just bring it out even when you win the flag, that sort of still loiters a little bit. Do you think there is a problem?
Well, I think it's fair enough. I mean, I've been saying it since 92, 93 when Essendon beat us in the grand final, and 94 when we went out. 95 we got a couple of good... Look, I think it gets back to, if you get the ball first, you're okay. If we're not getting it first, which we didn't in the latter half of the season, we're in trouble. Yeah. We haven't got the leg speed to win it back at times, and I think that gets back to form and blokes, being able to do the job, and I don't think we had enough blokes playing well at the end to get the ball first.
Given that fact, the injury to Fraser Brown through the second half of the year and the loss of Greg Williams, they must have been the key components, I guess, in what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you can throw in Dean and Spalding, who really, I mean, Dean hardly played this year. Dean about 5 or 6 games at tops, I think. And the Duke did his knee, came back, missed again, and then came back again, and he just hadn't played enough footy. And you can't lose a bloke, Fraser Brown's our best hard ball winner in the middle. Him and Ratton, and also Diesel as well, has been for a long time. So I mean, that's a lot of possessions to miss from your on-ball division. But I mean, look, everyone else had the same problems with injuries. Just shows you how good the year before was. I guess you look at North Melbourne; they had a full-strength team in the grand final, and luck plays a lot. A big part in winning premierships. Just
seemed to strike players who were integral to the very sort of structure of your side this year, didn't it? I mean, you mentioned Dean and Sporting. Well, there goes your sort of nominal centre-half back and your centre-half forward. I mean, you just can't, when it comes to versatility and flexibility within the actual 21 out there on a day, you lose those two blokes and suddenly you're a bit hamstrung, aren't you?
Well, your spine's the most, the critical part of any team, and there's 4 blokes who play in the spine. So I guess I thought the main factor as well was last year, a winning half-forward line in any team it helps you win a premiership and that sort of thing. And last year we had Clappe, Spalding and Rice all year doing the hard stuff, even when they weren't getting the ball a lot. They still kept the ball in and were really hard at it. And I think without, Clappe ended up in the reserves at the end of the year. Rice, he was up and down all year, and Spaldo was out with injury. So I think that really hurts your side.
Did blokes suffer a lack of morale because of that? There were times when it looked like, I don't know whether it was a lack of morale or just the constant pressure of coming up sort of week in, week out with the burden of being the defending champion. There were times when it looked like there were blokes who didn't quite know when they were expected to pick up the throttle and really kind of lead the way, given the sort of absence of some natural team leaders. Some blokes just didn't quite seem to take that step. Is that a...
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. That's the way I look to a lot of people. I think it gets back when your form's down a bit, and we had a few blokes out of form, there's no doubt about that. I don't think it's morale so much. I mean, you haven't got the confidence to do the things you were doing 12 months ago when you were playing well. So I think form's got a lot to do with it, and confidence, and that's maybe why we look like that. I mean, we won 10 of the first 12 games this year with most weeks for the first 12 weeks we had 8 and 9 premiership players out, and we were winning games. And they were saying, we showed great heart, I thought, in that period. Then we got a couple back. We thought we were going to come good again, and we just lost our way a bit.
Have you been able to isolate when it happened? A lot of people think that 2-week stretch when Sydney knocked you over at Princes Park, which was almost unbelievable, that you blokes had lost a game at Carlton, and then the next week, I think it was, North Melbourne, after the merger speculation, he fell over with Fitzroy, came out and thumped you that night at the MCG. Did those 2 weeks really sever a bit of self-confidence and really...
Well, I think North Melbourne did, certainly. The Swans game, I don't think people had expected the Swans to, I don't think they knew how good they were going to be, and as they showed later in the year that they were a good side, and that was a game we should have won. We were 20 points in front.
Yep. Looked like it was just going to be another one of those Carlton victories, didn't it?
Hard-fought win, and they got a couple of goals. That was the start of the Swans getting players back into defence, I think. They probably did it all year, but they had about 4 blokes in their front half of the ground there. They stacked out of our forward line, and they had a couple of ones over the top, and next minute they won by 11 points. So I think that was a game, we thought that might help us, We actually learned a bit from that game, and had a few blokes down and that sort of thing. Next week we come out and got flogged by 78 points, I think, whatever it was, against North, who we'd had the wood over for about 3 or 4 years.
And what did that do to the player group?
Well, I think that's when, the questions were being asked. A few blokes had 3 or 4 bad ones in a row, and that's when your confidence levels go down, and I suppose that signalled the start of our bad patch, I think.
So much was said about the sort of empowerment of the play group in 1995 that, a lot of it was player-driven, and there were initiatives taken from the senior players that led to the success that you had in 95. Was that still in place to the same extent in 96?
Yeah, it was. We did exactly the same thing, more or less, and we actually added players to it, because I think, the perception that we've got too many old blokes there, which is fair enough, is we thought we've got to get the middle management blokes in. We've got to start grooming them to take over. So we had, the year before, the older guys, we had about 14 guys in on those meetings, and we set the weekly goals or the monthly goals. And then we grew it to about, there was about 30 in there at the end. So whether that's right or wrong, we'll weigh it up this year. It's just as any club does. We set goals during a month and themes and that sort of thing. I mean, I don't think that you can't, look, I reckon once you're out there, you can have those goals and themes and all that sort of thing. Parko said that played a huge part last year, and it may have and it may not have, but once you get out on the track, you're all pretty well, down to yourself. And
exactly.
You put your team things into practice.
More to talk about. We'll be back after this break with more. Stephen Kernahan on the captain's comment. Ever of the Carlton Football Club. How does that mantle sit with you these days? It's
shocking. God, it's getting embarrassing, isn't it?
Starting to feel particularly old.
Well, I'm not starting to. I guess I can't help but being told often enough over the last few years.
All right, well, if that's the case, and you are a humble sort of a bloke, but how come your form, it doesn't seem to taper off? I know you didn't kick quite the number of goals this year as you have in years gone by, but you were certainly doing nothing wrong at the end of the year. How do you sort of maintain it all?
Yeah, well, look, I had my moments like everyone last year. A bad form for a few weeks here and there, but I mean, you just keep going, doing what you're doing, and we badly need some forwards down there, and I mean that helps me if we can get another focal point or two, and if Spalding can get up and going, that helps everybody. So, I mean, I'm 33 now, and not many players keep going at this age. I hate to see it, but I was looking at it the other day. Merritt retires, and if Justin Madden retires, I think I'm number 2 on the list behind G. Ablett. So that's that hits home a bit.
Both of you have kicked over 50 goals this year. So I mean, if you can continue to sort of produce those results, then you probably don't need to worry about it too much.
Yeah. Oh well, I suppose. Look, goals have never. The amount of goals that I kick have never really. I mean, some of the best games I've played when you kick 2 or 3. So I'd play a bit out, and you know, as long as you keep fitting into the side, if we can get Murphy and we get Kutafutis back in the forward line a little bit more than having to play him on ball all the time, which we'd love to do. There's our other avenues to goal, and if I can keep taking perhaps the best backman each week, we can get other blokes to jump up.
Well, there's a few things to talk about there, but first of all, the phenomenon. If you're not worried about how many you kick, are you concerned about actually how you're kicking these days? Because one of the great stories of 1996 was there seemed to be this new variation after all these years. There was a new style of.
Yeah, I think it's been there for a while, Andrew. In the last few years, I have had groin problems over the years. I've never really had anything else wrong but groins, and I used to have a long run up a few years back, or most of my life, and I've shortened it because it was easy to swing my leg through easy, and I've probably got into bad habits the last few years, and I was probably just getting it right at the end of the year, and the season's finished. So I'm, you know, let's hope next year I can get it right.
Can you make Kutafutis that James Herb type forward? Is he the sort of player that you like to have him learn how to play centre half forward, but give him that roaming capacity? He seems like the sort of bloke who could really dominate a game across half forward, probably kick anywhere between 2 and 4 goals a week if he was brought close enough to goal.
Well, personally, I think he is. I don't think, like this year, when we're going average and not getting the ball first, no point having Kuta at centre half forward. I don't think, if Kuta plays forward, you wouldn't have him as a centre half forward. You'd have him just as a floating forward who I reckon can get into the midfield and play around the ground. And I mean, I guess that's what Hurdy does. I mean, Hurdy gets back and kicks goals, but if it's not getting there, he's up getting it at half back and around the middle and starts in the centre bounce. I mean, I think it'd be a very similar role you'd look at him playing. Is
he a player, Kutafutis, is he a player that's got we all know how much natural ability he's got, but is he a bloke who's got a natural sort of feel for a contest? Is he the sort of bloke who has footy so ingrained in his sort of psyche that he knows when it's time for him to produce that something extraordinary just to give that side a little bit of a
Well, I think he's proven that. I mean, his last 5 finals, we had 3 last year, and his 2 finals this year, I mean, he's been our best player. And, you know, when a bloke stands up in finals, that's how you're usually judged by your peers. And if you know, in answer to a question like that, when he needs to step up, I'm sure he does. I mean, he's proven that, I reckon. And, you know, the more, you know, the guys, I don't know how old he's, Kuta, 23, 24, something like that. I mean, he's reaching his peak, hopefully, in the near future. So, you know, if he hasn't reached his peak yet, we've got a lot to look forward to. If he gets consistent, week in, week out, look out.
Do you get as overwhelmed or excited, or whatever the right word is, watching him as much as people do on the other side of the fence? Because some of the things he does are quite extraordinary.
Well, I've never seen adulation. Adrian Gallagher's seen a lot of footballers come and go. He's never seen anything like it, except when Carl Dittrich come onto the scene. So, you know, that's off the field stuff. He is held in, you know, the supporters just, I've never seen anything like it actually, but Kuta handles it very well. He's a very quiet young bloke and doesn't worry too much about it. But look, that game against the Eagles, I saw him play early this year. I was actually in the coach's box. I did a hammy. He was something special. He took 18 marks, and as soon as it went to him, he got it. And when he's like that, he is something different.
What about his great mate, Ange Christou, who they seem to be always spoken about in the same breath almost? And Ange just probably, or definitely had a year that he'd like to forget. Is that just one of those years that you write off? He's worked hard from the disappointment of 93 to become All-Australian 95. Do we just give him the one, you know, ordinary year and hope that in 97 he's sort of back to where he was last year?
Well, I think everyone's had an ordinary year here and there. No football ever, you know, that's ever pulled on a boot. It hasn't. But look, Ange, I'd say, is more up and down than had a shocking year. He started off pretty well during the year. He had a bad patch mid-season. I think then he came good, and he perhaps tapered off a bit towards the end of the year, like most of our players did. And I'm sure Ange is disappointed with it, but you know, you don't get many blokes his age and that have played, you know, 80-odd league games, and you know, he's the bloke. The Kutafutis and Christou and, you know, blokes like Canberra, they're the new young blokes we need to take over, you know, the side. When the older guys are going, they're gradually whittling us away, and you know, those are the guys we need to take the next step.
Do you see those same sorts of leadership capacities in that group of players as were existing in yours when you had, you know, Gleeson, Bradley, Madden, yourself, Dean, you know, all came through sort of from 86?
Well, I think that group would be more the Rattons, the Browns, the Sextons, and well, Sauce is one of us older blokes now. I mean,
sort of been in between his whole life, hasn't he?
If they reappoint me this year, I don't know if they will or not, but I mean, Sauce will be the next captain of this club, and he'll get his chance, no doubt about it. He deserves it, and that's that. When I talk about Ange and Cooter and Camporelli and these sort of guys, that's sort of that young group coming in. I think, you know, the next leaders, and they already are leaders, the Sextons, Rattons and Browns, as I said, they're the guys that are ready to take over the mantle of the leaders of the club.
Well, before we came on, we were talking about Stu Silvani's selection in the team of the century at fullback. Did you buy into the controversy that surrounded his selection? Because there seemed to be one, didn't there?
Yeah, they did. I mean, you can't separate guys from the 1920s to the 1990s, and I'm sure Jack Regan was a great player, and he would have been as good as Sauce was today, and Sauce would have been as good as he was in those days. And you know, it's an honour for anyone to even be picked. And you know, I was in one of the 3 centre forwards. I mean, that means something. I mean, people would have said, "What's Kernahan doing in there?" But I mean, you know, enough people thought you were a chance. So I reckon good luck to him. Sauce is he's the best fullback I've ever seen. And the bloke can play anywhere else as well. So, I mean, he can play. I've got no problem with it myself.
Plenty more to talk about. We'll be back with more Stephen Kernahan on the captain's comment after this short break. You mentioned forwards, and we'll get off this in a minute, but Brad Pearce was an interesting player in your side this year. At the end of the year, we've all thought that he has had a miserable season, and yet you look back and he's kicked 35 goals from 15 games, and each week seemed to be, you know, getting his 2, 3 or 4. What went through his sort of season this year?
Well, I think Pearcey did his job, but early on, you know, I did a hammy and I'd missed 4 games or something, and or 5 counting the one I didn't think I had pulled it, and played and properly did it. And when he was kicking his 3 and 4 every week, he was doing the job that he was there for. And Parko rode him pretty hard during the year. He was getting a little bit unfit at times. He had a lot of injuries. You know, he has bad, you know, lower back problems, which hurt it. He did his hammy in the latter part of the season, and I guess he just tapered off through injury. He couldn't get on the training track, and that affected his on-field performance, and he did his hammy. And, you know, Pearcey just, you know, his first half of the year was really good. He worked hard, kicked the goals when we needed it. And, you know, I reckon he's an integral part of our side if we can get him up and going. Because he's a goal kicker and we haven't got enough of him.
Absolutely. At 10-2, did it feel like we were on the way again? Did it feel like you blokes were just, you know, headed? I mean, everyone started saying, well, they're awesome, these blokes. They're not even playing that well and they've got a 10-2 reckon. They've got all these blokes to come back. Was there, you know, did you detect any sort of drop in intensity because it maybe was just going to happen? Yeah,
no, I was more like prouder of the blokes and the way we were playing, because we were, as I said earlier, we did have some weeks 8 and 9 premiership players there, which is a lot at any club. And you know, we're still, you know, Collingwood was a great example when we were 9 and 2 that last game we won before the sort of slump started.
Got behind them that day, didn't you?
Yeah, I think we were 5 goals down, 33 points down just before time on, and we went bang bang and won by a couple of goals, or 20 odd points I think in the end. We turned it round by 10 goals in a quarter and a bit. And I thought, you know, look, we get a few players back. We're not playing well, but we're winning. We're going to be hard to beat. I really thought, I like this build-up, you know. We're low-key. People were saying that we're going to be hard to beat when we get everyone back. So whether we started believing that, I mean, I don't think that's the fact. I think we just lost a bit of form and confidence, and it snowballed from there. And yet it seemed to, that last quarter against Melbourne was, I don't know whether you played in a more unbelievable quarter of footy in your entire life. You got 50 behind and got within a point, and you kicked sort of 8 goals in about 14 minutes in that quarter. I mean, have you played in a more staggering quarter of footy than that? I've never done that before. At times we've struggled to kick 8 goals in a game this year, but you know, you can't work that one out. And let's be honest, that game cost us a lot. Cost us probably 2nd spot, which look, we didn't play well enough. We didn't deserve to be there, but you know, that really was a bad loss for us, and that hurt us. Well, it was sort of interesting, wasn't it? Because I think that a lot of people thought, well, there goes any chance they've got of winning the flag, and then you came out and beat, you know, a Footscray who ended up running Essendon to a point the next week and were, you know, pretty competitive that day, and you handled them pretty easily by 5.
and then you probably played your best game of the year against Geelong the week after, to soon to go into the finals on a pretty confident upswing. Is that the way you were reading it at that stage?
Well, you get false, you know, when you have a really good victory. I mean, well, it's not false hope. You really think, well, you know, the sniff of September's coming. You know, we might have, you know, just what we needed, and that Geelong win was one of our best wins of the year, because, I mean, Geelong had knocked off, you know, the Premier the week before at North Melbourne, when North played good football that night.
Yeah.
And, you know, Geelong were playing well, and I think they're the biggest losing margin that, since Ayres has coached them at Cardinia Park, they haven't lost too often, was 18 points. And here we are, 11 goals up in the third quarter. And we had a really good win, and we all played well that day. And we got the forward line functioned in a difficult day with the
Murphy was interesting at centre-half forward that day, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, that's what I was sort of talking about. You know, I played leading up the ground and doing the harder stuff in the packs, and Murph was dropping back in the goal scorer, and Cooter the same. And that's something more of what we were looking at doing, but I guess we didn't get enough of it in the finals.
And what happened? I mean, the West Coast game, you had some fantastic victories over at Subiaco, but I think it's probably right to say that more often than not, you found it difficult over there, to, particularly when they get on a bit of a roll. It seemed like just another one of those games. But then the Gabba performance was, well, probably one of the worst that a lot of people have seen from Carlton. You seem to work so hard to get back in that contest halfway through the second quarter when you actually hit the front after the slow start, and looked like you started to play that game on your terms. And then, I mean, what happened after that?
Yeah, well, just firstly, the Eagles, I don't think anyone would have beaten them the way they played in that final. I mean, they were red hot. I mean, we were average, I've no doubt about that, but we were actually trying and having a go, and we got 5 goals down early, and we'd come back and get within 3 or 4. They'd bang on a couple more. I mean, we actually were working hard, I think, to get back into it. But they, on a dry, hard track at Subiaco, after the wet winter, I don't think many sides would have got near them. Obviously, Essendon are a bit of a bogey side for them, as they showed the week after.
It's like a few of those West Australian sprinters that come over sort of spring carnival time, who have been running on the top of the track. They get a rain-affected track over here and they're no good, are they?
It's a great level, that trip across Australia, but
desert,
either way. But
well, what about the second half at the Gabba?
Yeah, well, that's the most demoralising. I mean, I can handle, I think, my worst, most bitter experience. I mean, the 93 grand final, any grand final you lose is shocking, but we probably worked pretty hard to get there, and we met a very good side. 94, that's the most shocking experience to go out in both finals. And I'm on a par with it, is that to lose by 16 goals in a game, let alone a final, is demoralising. And as you say, to work so hard to get back into it. When Cooter marked that ball, I think we were a point in front then. If he had kicked it or went to Sauce, we were 7 points in front. It's 10 minutes before half time. You're thinking, hell, you know, I'm thinking we're going to win this. We're right here. And then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, you're 6 down at half time, and you lose by 16. So I mean, that I've never been, can't pinpoint being that, you know, upset after a game before.
Can the pride of a whole club be so mortally wounded by something like that that it can be a massive springboard for 97? Because, I mean, it looked like you were close this year, and even though you didn't ever look like you were playing anywhere near as well as you could, you were right there all the time, and nobody was really prepared to write you blokes off. Does that augur well for what might happen next year, do you think?
Well, I think we've proven one thing we can do is bounce back. Whether we've got enough, you know, heart and blokes ready to take that next step is debatable. I mean, we've got to have question marks overhead. We're not silly enough to think we haven't, but you know, I have got faith in a lot of these blokes, and as I said, if you can get 2 or 3 blokes to, you know, get a bit better, take over from, you know, really get better and take the next step, I think you can, you know, we can look forward to, you know, next year with a bit of confidence. And I think the clubs, which they may cop criticism for, they don't want to go and rebuild from scratch again and drop out of the finals and rebuild for 5 years' time. I think Carlton are a proud club, and they want to make the restructuring period, you know, be a little level, not you know, up and down. They just want to keep in the finals, because once you get it, go at the finals, you're always a chance.
And do you feel like they don't have to make radical overhauls for you guys to be a real contender next year?
Well, I think we need as I said, if we get players to get better, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
But if we probably need an injection with a couple of young kids or new players through the draft, but we're not going to get them. I mean, we can't rely on the draft to get them. So basically, the list is what we've got. I mean, we can't go out and buy players and get them in there. We've got to nurture. We've got to get a few blokes like Hamill, and there's a young kid Anstey into the side. That's the first thing. I believe that.
Yeah.
But basically, you know, if we can put 2 or 3 more new guys in there, we basically turf a couple of us old blokes maybe, depending on how the side looks. You know, that's, I think, the basis of what we've got for next year.
Well, enjoy a tough, gruelling pre-season. You've just had a new child, your second, I believe, so congratulations. Missing the players' trip so you can look after the baby.
Shattering, I'm father of the year, surely.
Enjoy that, you'll have to get it, yeah. And thank you for joining us on the Captain's Comment. We'll be back next week with